Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Top story from the last 2 days is a series of successful Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian oil depots. In a first, Russia downs drone over St. Petersburg. So now St. Petersburg isn't even out of range of Ukrainian drones. This happened on the night of the 17th. And the next night, Ukraine tried again and successfully hit their targets. Kyiv claims new attack on oil depots inside of Russia. It was actually 2 of them. Let's talk first about the one outside of St. Petersburg. And this oil depot is critical for the Russians. This is how they get their oil and natural gas exports out through the Baltic Sea. It was critical that Ukraine start targeting this. And it's located on the port city of Ust-Luga, outside of St. Petersburg, but this is 860 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. How is Ukraine doing this? There is video online of the oil depot fire. If you want to see it for yourself, I'll link it down below. Here's the map showing the facility right on the Estonian border. This is how they get out through the Baltic Sea. St. Petersburg is located about here. And that's a pretty far distance for a drone to fly through Russian or Belarusian territory. And the word is the gas terminal at this facility is currently offline. Every day they can't pump or export. This is costing the Russians millions of dollars. Something tells me if Ukraine does have a drone capable of this range, then attacks are going to become more frequent on this facility. Now, the other oil depot that was hit in the city of Klinchy. This is the Bryansk region of Russia. There are videos online. I'll link it down below. And this is where it's located on the map. Here's Kyiv, here's Chernihiv, this is Belarus. And the word is that Russia is beginning to amass forces in the north. The theory is they're planning a summer offensive in the north, presumably towards the city of Chernihiv. So I think it was wise for Ukraine to go after this oil depot. This oil depot, being so close to the border, is probably supplying the Belarusians as well as the Russian forces threatening the north of Ukraine now. Ukraine also successfully hit some defense production sites inside of Russia in the cities of Tula, Smolensk, and Oryol. Fantastic news. Anything Ukraine can do to disrupt these factories will have an impact on Russian production. More train sabotages. The military seaport of Novorossiysk had a series of setbacks after another railroad control box was set on fire. So somebody, or a group of people, are going up and down the rail lines in Russia, sabotaging these control boxes, filming the videos, and posting it online. Russia got their replacement A-50 deployed to the war zone, and this plane is not leaving Russian territory. The previous A-50 that was shot down was flying over the Sea of Azov. This gave them the range to see all the way into Ukrainian-controlled territory. But Russia doesn't have many of these planes, and they can't afford to lose another one. So this plane currently is going to continuously circle over Krasnodar, offering whatever surveillance they can of the occupied territories. Hundreds joined fresh protests in support of jailed activists in Russia's Boshkortostan. Boshkortostan has a population of about 4 million people, and what exactly is going on now is hard to say. Russia has cut off the internet to this province. They're blocking Telegram channels and any websites trying to support these people or organize future protests. But the local people are doing their best. I give them respect for that. This is what the protests in the capital city of the region looked like 2 days ago. This is an entirely peaceful protest, but peaceful protests are not allowed in Russia. This is currently happening in Ufa. Ufa is the capital city of Boshkortostan, and it has a pretty significant population of 1.1 million people. The police, of course, showed up. They were there, and they started grabbing people at random to make a demonstration, pushing them into a bus. And the people did at one point surround the bus, trying to block it from leaving, hoping that they could free their fellow protesters, but I'm guessing the people taken on this bus will be made examples of, and this might stop whatever movement is trying to occur through peaceful means. If people can't participate in peaceful protests, well, you might get more rail line sabotages then, so Russia's doing this to themselves. Let's check in on the weather. Currently negative 13 degrees Celsius in Moscow. That's about 8 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can go online and see this continuous parade of utility failures across Russia. Russia's Novosibirsk declares state of emergency over growing heating outages. These heating outages are affecting millions of people across multiple cities. And here's the story of one woman from Podolsk. This is in the Moscow region. This is the capital city. And here's what she has to say. Well, that's how we live. The cold weather has come, but nothing is turned on. Where do I call? Who do I call? We're freezing. I have an elderly husband, 85 years old. He walks on crutches. He doesn't go anywhere. And now we turn on electric appliances. We have to pay 2,000 rubles for electricity. Again, we're paying for heat, which we don't have. And now we have a second payment for electricity. We pay for electricity, yes we do. We use a lot of electricity because my husband is cold, the radiators are icy, there is no water. It's only going to get worse. When you think about how bad it was this winter, we're about halfway through. It's going to be even worse for the Russians next winter, as I don't think Putin is going to prioritize utility repairs over the war effort. And when we check in with the military map, I do have an update for you. If we zoom in to the city of Avdiivka, the Russians have extended the gray zone into the city. If you want to consider this part of the city of Avdiivka, this is now a gray zone in dispute. The Russians have entered the city. In my opinion, this is part of the plan because the flanks have expanded so much. Ukraine could better conserve manpower and resources if they fall back to a more defensible line. So what's probably going to happen over the next couple weeks and next couple months is the Russians are going to continue advancing through the city of Avdiivka. The Ukrainians currently are trying to deny them a propaganda win prior to Putin's election, but come mid-March, after Putin is re-elected, Ukraine's probably going to pull back to somewhere around here. And they're not going to give it away for free. They're going to make the Russians fight for it. Russia assaulting the city of Avdiivka. They're taking casualties at a ratio of 7-to-1, 8-to-1, even 10-to-1. So this is a gift from the Russian military to Ukraine. Is it a good thing to finally give up the city of Avdiivka? Of course not, because of Avdiivka's proximity to the city of Donetsk. This was a good foothold to retaking the Donbass region. But given that Western aid is being held up in the EU and Republicans in Congress are blocking additional military aid, Ukraine has to conserve. And the report is that Ukraine is not going to conduct any offensives, large-scale offensives, for the entire year of 2024. The goal this year is to increase their own defense production. Hopefully the Western allies can get their act together and resume military support. But the plan is for this war to go until 2025, and Ukraine can conduct a large offensive next year. So let's now talk about why Ukraine can't go on the offensive right now. They're running short on everything. Incredibly stark, Biden aides give lawmakers a grim assessment of Ukraine without more aid. The president's national security aides said in a private meeting this week that Russia could win the war within weeks if Congress doesn't act. I don't think it's weeks, but it is the goal of the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to explain to congressional Republicans the worst-case scenario if they continue blocking additional military aid to Ukraine. The war is not going to end in weeks, but Ukrainian lives will be lost. Valuable positions, such as the city of Avdiivka, will be lost. Congressional funding officially ran out on October 1st, and House Republicans have been blocking a simple up or down vote for 4 months. Okay, so they want to tie it to immigration reform and border security. Well, President Biden is making serious concessions to the Republicans on immigration in order to secure additional military aid to Ukraine. What's the problem? House Republicans signal opposition to the border Ukraine deal as President Trump steps in. I mean, this is pretty obvious. Trump doesn't want this. Trump wants Russia to win. So House Republicans are just doing what Donald Trump wants. And this brings me to Congressional Representative Dan Crenchaw. Dan Crenchaw is a MAGA Republican, a big Trump supporter, but he's also a former U.S. Navy SEAL who gave one of his eyes fighting for his country. So he has very fixed, strong beliefs. You might not agree with his politics, but he's an honest man who believes what he believes. And this is what Representative Crenchaw has to say about his fellow MAGA Republicans.
Meaningful border policy changes, and for whatever reason people come up with, they don't want it anymore. That's going to be a pretty tough position to stand by. So, so they're saying a couple things, right? Well, we'll never vote for it if it's attached to Ukraine. Really? Like, we get meaningful border policy for Ukraine aid, and you're not going to vote for that? So you want Russia to win more than you want border policy changes? That's a tough. You defend that. Some people say, oh, well, Biden wants it now because it's helpful to him politically. Okay, I want border security. That's what I told my constituents that I would do for them. So if we can get that deal, that's a no-brainer.
This is conservative Texas Republican Dan Crenchaw, who says he's been talking to his fellow GOP House members about this border Ukraine aid deal. And they're saying they're never going to vote for it. They're never going to support it because they want Russia to win. They want Russia to win more than they want to secure the southern border. They don't care about the border. It's just about making Biden and the Democrats look bad. That was his second point. Some people say, well, Biden wants it now because it's helpful to him politically. And he's saying, were we not elected to secure the border? Why would we not vote to increase border security? If the Democrats and President Biden want to give us this, you're not going to do it? This is what I've been saying on my channel for 2 months. The Republicans are not negotiating in good faith. They deliberately put aid for Ukraine with border security and immigration reform because they want both to fail. They want this to be a catastrophe for Ukraine and a catastrophe at the border so they can campaign on this for the next 9 months. They want this issue to help them win an election in 9 months. So if you are a conservative Republican who cares about the border, and you believe Americans are dying because drugs are coming across the border, criminals and gangs, this is a MAGA Republican saying he's talking to fellow MAGA Republicans, and they're not going to do anything to secure the border prior to November. They're going to let Americans die from drugs getting across, from criminals getting across, because they want to make President Biden look bad prior to the election. And here's where the game begins. Dems float a trade, Ukraine border deal for protecting Speaker Johnson. This is a question that people have had. Why don't the House Democrats vote for a Republican speaker that will allow a vote on military aid to Ukraine. So what the Democrats are doing, the long shot notion, is they're now floating the idea to Speaker Johnson. Just allow a vote on this border security and Ukraine aid bill, and if the extremes like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz try to remove you from the speakership, we'll make sure there's enough Democrats voting to keep you there through the November election. But based on everything Speaker Johnson is saying and doing, he's not going to take the deal. He's not going to take the deal. He's going to continue blocking the votes, and he's going to have to be removed. Meaning, the Dems will offer this deal to somebody else. Any other House Republican that wants to be second in line for the presidency for the next 9 months, they'll vote for that person and get rid of Johnson, get rid of this nonsense, find a Republican who actually wants to secure the border and make sure that our allies abroad continue defending democracy. I'm really pissed off, guys. And this is what MAGA Republicans are messing around with. You need to see this. Here's the latest clip from Russian Media Monitor. Daniel Bezanov hopes Ukrainians will fight on Russia's side against NATO. I'll put the whole clip down below if you want to see it, but let me read for you this very important part. This man right here is speaking. Of course, this war will end with negotiations. All wars end this way, and it would be great if Ukrainians understood this sooner, because Ukrainians are our mobilization resource in a future war with NATO. It's just the way it is, and now it's an experienced mobilization resource. What we're hoping for is that they understand what the Anglo-Saxons have done to them and how they set it all up. If they understand it, everything will be fine. Otherwise, this will be a war until the last Ukrainian. Of course, this is the Russians' plan. If the Russians can successfully take Ukraine, they will Russify the people. They will flood them with propaganda how the West set them up, the West destroyed their country, the West turned them again against their true brothers, their fellow Slavs, the Russians. And the only way that Ukraine can get their revenge is if they go to war against NATO. How many Ukrainians would sincerely buy that? Not many. But that's not the point. The Russians know how to force people to fight. When you look at prisoners, when you look at conscripts, when you look at mobilized men, people from Africa and Syria coming into the war zone, Russia's plan has always been to take Ukraine, population 40 million people, mobilize all the men, and send them to their deaths attacking Poland and attacking the Baltics. How many human meat wave attacks can you get out of the roughly 18 million men still alive in Ukraine? And that's a lot of meat to be used attacking the Baltics and Poland in a future war with NATO. So if the United States does not continue to support Ukraine, if Ukraine cannot hold, it will be American soldiers fighting Ukrainians in Poland and the Baltics within the next 5 years. This is Russia's plan. And we can stop this. We can prevent this today. And this is who's coming. This is who the Russians really are. Here's another interview from 1420. This is a young Russian man thinking about joining the Russian military. And he's completely honest about his motives. This is what he wants. I'm still thinking about signing a contract. I'm thinking about doing it in the upcoming days. First of all, it's very cool to serve the country. Second of all, you can peacefully kill people without going to jail. You fight for Russia at the end of the day. You won't be punished for that. And there's another cool thing. You can catch the Nazis. You can then torture them. You can put them on their knees and you can cut their heads off. It's very good. It gives you confidence and pride, and you even get $2,200 a month for doing that. 1420 asks him, so you're ready to go over there? I'm ready for this experience. I'd like to get money for killing people. And it's not bad what I will do. Good must overcome evil. I agree to do this. This is who the Russians are. This is who the Russians want to make the Ukrainians become. And then invade Poland, invade the Baltics, invade Finland, invade Moldova, invade the Caucasus, Central Asia, reconstitute the Russian Empire. Putin doesn't care how many millions of his people die to achieve this objective. Final couple videos I have for you. The first one I'm going to link down below. And if you want to see what it looks like in the war zone, this is a 4-minute drone drop video of Russians being annihilated. So it is combat footage, and if you don't want to see people dying, don't click on this video. But given that it's January and there's snow covering the battlefield, this is some HD video just showing what it looks like when Russia conducts these human meat wave attacks. And sometimes this is important to see, to know it's still happening. I'll link this down below if you want to check it out. This is a crazy video that went viral online. Apparently, a Chinese citizen took up the Russians on their offer. You can get Russian citizenship if you sign a contract with the MOD and go to the war zone to fight for Russia. So this idiot, this man from China, believed the Russian propaganda, signed a contract with the Russians, was sent to Ukraine, and immediately regretted his life. So I'll play like the first minute of this clip, but I'll link it down below if you want to see the whole thing. It's pretty hilarious.
全体都要听我口令！同志们好！同志们辛苦了！首战由我！由我必胜！OK？
This is worth highlighting. So he says, use me in the first battle. If you use me, you will win. So this is how it started out.
出发了啊！大部队开拔了，出发了。大家好，我现在在乌克兰，战场没有把我击倒，病痛把我击倒了，得了重感冒，嗓子里面全部溃烂了，关节很疼痛，这边没有任何的医疗条件，医生只有最简单的开药和心电图，就说我没有问题。
So this Chinese man went to Ukraine in the wintertime and got a cold, and then he realized there was no cold medication that he could take. And that was enough for him to say, I want to quit. I want my contract with the Russian military canceled. He's begging netizens of China, the Chinese embassy, to intervene and get him help so he can go home. And yeah, this is pretty dumb, but this video actually is very important for other Chinese citizens to see, so they don't also fall victim to Russian propaganda, thinking they'll achieve glory in battle by going to Ukraine. I'm sorry, they don't have any warm tea for you to drink to soothe your poor throat. Final clip I have for you is the Ukrainian national anthem being played by this citizen at the entrance to Donetsk. Keep the faith, Ukraine will win. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up, Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.